Is happening. We're about to go live, yo. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us again on this afternoon's budget conversation. I'm about today's conversation because it's about an issue that is very important. Every week, every day as a council person, I get an email from the police department, sometimes multiple times a day, about crimes in our city. And what breaks my heart is that a lot of time this is about youth, young adults in our community. Last, was it Friday this week, woke up to a shooting in Bellevue, a 15-year-old that shot a 13-year-old, just kids playing in the park. And what is sad about it is that this is not an isolated occurrence. This is something that we're now seeing. And so the question to all of us is, what do we need to do? How do we cope this? How do we make sure we keep our kids safe? As part of the budget hearing, Chief Drake came and spoke to the council, and he presented his budget, what he wants to do. Some of them include community engagement. The police talk about some decrease in crime rates that they've seen, which is all good. But what we want to do this afternoon is focus on what community members are doing. What are some of the community programs that are out there that are actually working, especially with our youth, to keep them safe. And I'm very excited that I've got some youth advocates, some youth gurus, people that have devoted their lives to make sure that our youth have the best opportunity and they keep them as safe as possible. And so I'm going to have my group introduce themselves. Thank you all so much for joining me this afternoon. This is our budget conversation. This will be live with you on Zoom, and people will be watching on Facebook. They get the opportunity to comment and to ask you questions. And then after this conversation, what will happen is people can also go back and look at it, watch the video on Facebook. We also send it to council, and council will put it on the council YouTube page as well. So anybody that visits Metro YouTube page have access to this conversation. And the last thing that I do is I transcribe it and make it into a blog on my website. I also send it out as a newsletter. So you have the opportunity to reach as many people as possible, not just the one that you're talking to today, but 2-3 years from now, this will still be there somewhere, YouTube, on a blog somewhere. And so I'm excited about the opportunity to be able to do that, but more importantly, to be able to work together to make sure that we keep our youth safe. So thank you all for being here. I know you all are very busy, you got a lot to do, but you took the time to be with me. I'm going to ask each of you to briefly introduce yourself, tell us something about yourself, and briefly about your organization.
I'll begin then, Zulfat. I'm Mike Lacey. I'm a recovering Metro employee, formerly from the Mayor's Office of Community Safety, where I worked under Ron Johnson, who's also under the call. We worked for Mayor John Cooper and briefly under Mayor O'Connell. And currently you can find me writing about different Metro things on Substack under Rich Text, and I've been consulting and generally just kind of sleeping a little better lately, but still very much trying to be involved. So glad to be here.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mike Floss. I'm the Arts and Culture Director for the Southern Movement Committee. Our organization is built up with a few different programs. We have the Black Nashville Assembly, which is a project of the Southern Movement Committee, which is a nonprofit, where we bring Black folks in the city together to talk about their issues, come up with solutions, and develop action steps for those solutions. We also have a youth assembly that is an internship program for young adults where they learn a community organizing curriculum and also build campaigns to help shift their reality in the city in real time. The current campaign is the Varsity Spending Plan, which I believe some folks on this call have heard of already. Then we also engage in statewide democracy building and arts and culture. One of the things we did across the state of Tennessee was have a hip hop and R&B tour to encourage folks to vote, but also encourage folks to identify political homes and let them know that the Southern Movement Committee can be their political home if they're trying to create change across the state. So that's a little bit about us. Thank you for having us on the call.
Awesome. Hip hop R&B. That's cool.
If I,
Drake
if I could,
coming?
Maybe Kendrick. Maybe Kendrick.
It can't, okay, all right.
Let's go.
if I could follow up our arts and culture director, my name is Jamel Campbell Gooch, Nashville native. I am the organized director at the Southern Movement Committee. My specific role is those programs. We have members of those programs which help inform and develop our campaigns, like the varsity spending plan. So the varsity spending plan is literally a result of us practicing participatory budgeting with our members and them coming up with those solutions and then having a participatory process for them to determine what those solutions can be and literally to develop the campaign. So whenever you're looking at something from the varsity spending plan, you are looking at the result of a lot of creativity, both from our young folks and the other participants in our programs. We are really excited to be here to talk to you about this today.
Cool, I'll jump in. My name is Travis Claybrooks. I also am a Nashville native, a North Nashville native 37218 Botto. My background is, I have a very eclectic background, ranging everything from law enforcement to pastoring to child advocacy to victim advocacy. Currently, I run Rafah Institute, founded and the CEO there. We are really organized to partner with communities to design solutions that help people access resources that they need to heal and thrive, to live in a safe space, to have education that they need, to have the healthcare that they need, to have the economic opportunity that they need, and to have the right social support structures that they need. Those are our five tenant areas. We have 2 program areas. We work at the intersection of the criminal legal system, namely the courts, with a restorative justice diversion process on felony cases that come through juvenile court. We also have an early childhood education initiative that is geared towards empowering mostly Black women to start home-based childcare businesses to serve communities where children have little to no access to early childhood education, so that hopefully we can put our restorative justice program out of business in 10 years or so. We are expanding currently to Memphis and Shelby County with that restorative justice work. We'll be piloting our first case in juvenile court there probably in the next month or so. Very excited about that, and good to be here.
Thank you.
I'll go next. Hello, my name is Rashida Fatuga. Hello, Council Lady. It's so good to see you.
Good to see you.
Thank you for having me. I am the proud founder of Gideon's Army, Grassroots Army for Children. Our mission is to eliminate the root causes of the prison pipeline, save our children from death and incarceration, and guide them on a secure path to success. We will not stop until the pipeline is dismantled. We will not quit on our children. Gideon's Army, thank you, is a strategic peace building organization. So we look at and work towards the elimination of violence, but also of building peace within communities. It's so nice to be in the company of everyone here today. Gideon's Army laid the foundation for the restorative justice program in juvenile courts. We have been the catalyst behind violence interruption in Nashville and the push for interruption in Nashville. I was just recognized by the University of Chicago as being one of the top 30 violence intervention specialists in the country, and am now trained and certified, yes, thank you, to do training technical assistance for violence intervention interruption programs by the University of Chicago. I was also honored by the White House for my violence interruption work and received the innovation grant that was recognized by the White House, as well as University of Chicago and the Annie E. Casey Foundation. Gideon's Army has very comprehensive violence interruption intervention programs, starting with, of course, violence interruption, but we also have hospital-linked violence interruption programs. We do a lot of trauma and grief care, quality of life care linked to Vanderbilt. Skyline hospitals are the locations where we are the most. Gideon's Army started restorative justice pilots in Metro Nashville Public Schools. We were the catalyst behind the push for restorative justice in Metro Public Schools, the catalyst behind the change of the school policy handbook, the student parent handbook, which is now more restorative in nature, the push behind funding for restorative justice practitioners in the schools, as well as, of course, the Driving While Black report, which is several different initiatives that we've led that have also been successful. Let's see. So we got violence interruption, trauma, mentoring, and I'll go through my other programs later, but
Yeah,
Gideon's
yes, yes.
Army, eliminating the root cause of the prison pipeline and stopping violence. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Mr. Johnson.
All right, last but not least, they said the first to be last and the last to be first, so I'll go first. Thanks so much, Council Lady, for allowing us all to be here, and just looking forward to us taking this next step. I'm Ron Johnson, former Director of Safety under Mayor Cooper, and also shortly under Mayor O'Connell. This work is very important to all of us that I think are on this call, and so I don't want to take too much time to just say the work is important. Let's get it done by any of the means necessary. Let's go.
Well, thank you all for being here. And we're talking safety. So I hope that that's a green screen behind you, like in the movies, that you're not really driving.
Yep, green screen. It's a green screen.
It's the green, whatever it's called, green background. Well, thank you. I mean,
Yeah.
as I listen to all of you and the wealth of resources and knowledge that you are bringing, I'm really, really impressed. And I know that we should be able to put all of this to good use. What I want to ask all of you is, and whoever, if you, maybe everybody don't have to answer, but if you have a thoughts on it, is that what are some of the factors that you all in your experiences believe are contributing to youth violence? I mean, we have all of this program, we have things that have been changing. We've been doing restorative justice for some time. So why are we seeing this trend? What are those factors that maybe we're not addressing, that we may not be aware of, or that we should be aware of?
I can hop in here first if folks don't mind. Also, I know Travis opened this door. I didn't know we was announcing zip code, so 37208 to the day that I die. Right off Bud Cannon on play.
Nashville in the house.
08 in the house.
So for me, like I said, I grew up in 37208. We're known. I went to school in 37208, graduated from Tennessee State University, worked at the Oasis Center where I met Ron, worked in the schools, worked in the community centers. And I think and also we've heard this from our youth assembly members, our youth interns, and our members. So it's just like a couple of things. Like our young people talk about a lack of safe spaces, right? Where young people can literally be young folks. So they often talk about that there's very few places that they can actually gather, have fun, and be themselves. Then also harsh punishment, right? Punitive punishment for young people that are just doing things that young people do. So young people don't have the ability oftentimes to learn from their mistakes. And then also there's just has been a lack of investment for several reasons into official institutions that act proactively to decrease conflicts. In other words, giving our young people the tools to actually be able to wade through conflicts in a generative manner. We all gonna go through conflicts. We're gonna have that. That is gonna happen no matter what. But oftentimes young people, even in our programs, talk about how they've never been taught how to go through a conflict in a generative way where they don't end up escalating or paying those parts. So just really, because we have done a lot in Nashville, and Councilperson, you could talk to this, of investing in the thing that happens after the young people come in contact with the courts, after they've experienced violence, after gunshots have rang off. But that the investment in the before all of that happened hasn't equaled the same. So that's really an environment that contributes to it, but also we know that if we ever equal that investment, we know what the results would be. So
No, thank you. Anyone has any more to add to it? Lack of safe places punitive punishment, a lack of investment in programs that actually help kids deal with violence and with conflict. I think those are very powerful. Any more thought on some of the things that are contributing to youth violence in our community?
Yeah, I mean, I'll jump in, and I probably won't say anything fundamentally different from what Jamel has said. We frame it a little bit different at Refines to identify really 4 drivers of violence, and it doesn't matter whether you're a young person, a baby, a child, a person who is of senior age. An inability to meet one's economic need will drive you to be violent. Trying to access basic resources and what you need to get basic resources. The shame that is associated with that also is a driver of violence. You hear so often, they disrespected me. I'm disrespected. The psychological torture that especially young people who are developing intellectually, but again, this is at any age. You know, you could take a child and you shame them hard enough, they will act out on you, right? Isolation is another driver of violence. Again, I'm not saying anything different than what was said already. A lack of safe spaces. People feel isolated geographically. They feel isolated in terms of their psychological safety. They feel isolated in terms of their ability to, once again, get resources. And then finally, violence itself is a driver of violence, right? We say, hurt people, right? So we really try to frame our understanding and our response to people who are causing violence with that understanding. Poverty, isolation, shame, and then violence itself. And incidentally, these are the very things that get baked into incarceral settings. And we put people into that, coming from that, and then we invite them to leave that and come back into that and expect somehow that we are going to be, that response to violence is going to make us safer. Yeah, I'll leave with that.
Thank you. Any other thoughts before I go to my next questions? These are very powerful.
I would like to, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Those are all, thank you. Those are all really great answers. And I would like to add that specifically for Nashville has never had a council or a mayor that are fully champions for the people. You have people who are in council who are champions for the people. I'm not sure that we've had a mayor, and of course, Mayor O'Connell, he just got there. He says that he's committed to being a champion for the people, but he hasn't been there long enough to necessarily make a judgment on how much of a champion for the people that he is committed to being. But in 2014, 2015, 2016, like several times, Gideon's Army has gone to council for support, and there's verbal support, but there's not always there's not funding really that's put behind it, and then also not really a commitment to what it really will take to build peace. And it seems that city leaders only care once someone has been shot. But with Gideon's Army, we're with these young people all the time. We're at the hospitals when they're screaming and getting bullets pulled out of them. We're there at the funeral homes, negotiating funeral. Like, it's always an emergency. The house has been on fire, but it's like only when it's close to home and somebody can feel the flicker of the flames is it important. And once that burn is gone, it's lulled again. I think that there's also a lack of understanding for what it really will take comprehensively. What are the research-based models, the research evidence-based, evidence-informed, like all of these things. Everyone tends to be all over the place. And then the city also has an issue with the way that it partners. and how it colonizes the work, especially of Black women, where we are out here, we are the ones leading, dodging bullets, being a catalyst, setting standards. We're out here trying. And when we are out here with open arms, there seems to every time be an attempt for our work to be colonized. So it's taken from us as though people can do better, but everybody who thinks that they can do better have not been out here with us in the way that we have been out here. And that is a problem, because when Gideon's Army started the violence interruption program, a lot of people don't know, but we did focus groups in North Nashville, Casey, and JCUC, University Court, JC Napier communities. We brought together pretty much every metro agency. We paid and brought down Cure Violence, who did an assessment report. We did all of those things already, but what the city will do is they'll go behind us and they'll contact Cure Violence, or they'll go around us, and they do these things. If they'll do it to us, they'll do it to the people on this call, and they'll do it to anybody else who pushes the needle a little bit, you know, and cause out harm. The other thing is, in this city, that you can't tell a partner, you can't say, okay, Metro Agency X, what you're doing is actually causing more violence in communities without being blackballed, without being slandered, or any of those things. We have to change the systemic culture in this city, because even the nature of restorative justice is calling out harm when harm is caused, and that includes systemic harm. So those are things that I see that this city can do and do better, in addition to the things that were mentioned by the others on this call.
Wow. Well, thank you all so much. Thank you. I mean, these are, there is a saying in my culture that if you, and I don't know how to phrase it for you, but basically something that if it boils down to, if you're only dealing with symptoms and you're not dealing with root causes, the problem will never go away. And so if what we're doing is putting bandages on things, then we will keep coming back to the same conversation every time. And so being able to go to those root causes that you all have elaborated would allow us to make sure that at least we're dealing with the problem, like Jamel also said, as a prevention rather than coming when something has already happened, punitive. And so that's what I'm hoping this conversation is leading us to. That's what I'm hoping that we can build on. And that's what I'm hoping that hopefully we can start putting our money where our mouth is. So that leads me to the next question. And I think this is where we start talking about money where the mouth is. All right. And so when we start talking about all of these things happen, what are the dangers? You can put it as danger, or you can put it as an impact, whether it's economic impact, social impact of this increase in violence. And I want you all to be brief so we can get to the actual programs that you're doing, and so that we can also get other questions online. If we need to extend this beyond an hour, we need to add another 30 minutes. If you're all for it, there's so many of us on the call. I'm game. Because it's very important conversation. So, but I just wanted to, at least in case you're tight for time, that we need to start looking at that. So what are the dangers other than, I mean, kids killing kids we know that, but I want you to put it for people that are not even thinking about it in their mind, that there is economic impact, there is social impact. People may think that it doesn't affect them. What are some of the dangers of not tackling these inherent causes that you guys highlighted?
I might take that, Councilwoman. One thing that we looked at when trying to advocate that the city invest more than it was into community safety, and to be very specific in how what it was doing with that money, and not just say it's community safety, but to make sure that it's getting out And I really just like want to also just yes and what Rashida was just saying about the way the city deals with folks, which like was pretty stark to me when I was in there. And then since leaving is like kind of even more clear to me how difficult it is to get institutions like our city to work well with the partners that it needs. But one thing that we did was we tried to calculate roughly what the impact economically would be if we succeeded in implementing a program called group violence intervention, which is like similar to, but like is somewhat different from like the cure violence, violence interruption. But they have like similar potential levels of impact. And if they were able to do what they've done in other cities, which is drop the homicide rate by 30%. I mean, one, that's about 40 extra people who are alive every year. That's like the kind of the first thing to say. But if you want to turn it into numbers for whatever reason, over like several decades, that turns into like $1 billion of saved revenue, whether it's from the loss of income to that family and to the collateral consequences onto them, to the incarceration of people being involved. There's a tremendous amount of cost that's absorbed in a system that is not doing comparatively very low cost things that people are asking and begging to be able to do to stop those crimes.
Wow. So we basically, the impact is that we're not spending so much money, but we get a turn on it. I mean, saving lives, you cannot even put a dollar value on that. But the fact that you're looking at the income that that person will make into the economy and the income that they will make for their family, as well as the losses if they are not taken care of. I mean, those are very, very good points. So I wanted to now go into Mike, you started this, and I want you to take a minute to explain to us. We were talking about community safety, right? And then we also have public safety, which is where we actually fund our law enforcement and all of that. And oftentimes we commingle or we interchangeably use public safety, community safety. What is the difference between public safety and community safety? Is there a difference, or are they all the same?
It's a great question. And the one thing that I noticed is that the current proposed city budget has a section called community safety outcomes. But when I look at them, I see that those outcomes are what would typically be labeled as public safety outcomes, because they were talking about the police response times, firefighters response times, and things like that, which for the most part are really great things to want to improve. But what the academic language is around this is that's public safety, not community safety. So what is community safety? Community safety, and we really like took time to see what a lot of people around the country were saying about it and to get a working understanding that made sense. The understanding that we had at the point when we were in the mayor's office was that community safety are ways that you invest in preventing violence and raising the quality of life in a community that is provided by members of that community and typically are happening before that violence occurs or during it. And where we see public safety coming into that is public safety officials more often are uniformed, have the appearance of being sort of like outside of that community coming into it, and are responding at the time or after violence. So that could be EMTs, police, and firefighters. So obviously, so what we saw was like it's kind of a spectrum. There are programs where their engagement makes some sense, but there's a time spectrum that is helpful to look at. And when you look at the types of programs and workers that contribute to community safety, they're typically people in that community, organizations from that community who are serving it in lots of ways that don't look like wearing bulletproof vests and walking on the streets, although sometimes it does look like that. Public safety, which is funded about 300 times more than community safety initiatives by the city, are coming in typically after the fact and have connections to the carceral system, and are the ways in which people typically wind up interacting with the municipal government in that sense. So that's a starting point.
Jamel, I think you have a response to that.
Yeah, I think this is interesting because I think this really puts into perspective like the language gap that happens between everyday people and legislators. I think this is like some nuance that I think Mike broke down very well, but oftentimes when we talk to our folks, we have to break this down, right? But when we ask our folks like what keeps them safe, when we transfer the framing into that question, they bring up the things that we all know: good paying jobs, housing, good roads, good sidewalks, education. Those are the things that I think create an environment of safety. And then that's just like for everyday folks. I think it's just one more piece. If the dangers or impacting increase young violence is literally our future is on the line. Like we have no one to pass this great city down to. You know, our families are destroyed. And so that's why we need things like the Office of Youth Safety, the Varsity Spending Plan, because we need to be able to literally secure our future so that we can work on problems and they can be solved generationally, right? Some of these issues are transgenerational. Like they've been here before we got here. And the only way to solve them is to make sure that we have a future. But those are just two things I wanted to say real fast. I hope that was brief enough, councilperson.
No. I got it both of you got it succinctly. It's about community members doing things in the community, but it's also about those investments that government makes into the community that keep people safe and in turn prevent crimes. I don't think you can say it any better than that. That is, so we look at it holistically. That how do we keep our community safe? It's making sure people have jobs, it's making sure that there's education, it's not just firearms and court system and things like that. Now, I will say that, and Travis, I would let you take this question. It's not on the ones that I sent you, but what I'm thinking is that the police department now have some initiatives where they're actually going into the communities. And they're doing youth stuff and just trying to get to know the community that they live in. What are your take on those type of, because that is community as well. So where you have an intersection with public and community safety, what are your take on that? Travis, I want you as a former police officer, as somebody who is now doing RAFA, what is your take on that part of it?
Yeah, I mean, I can, give you my thoughts as a former police officer. Police officers are asked to do an impossible job. And it's impossible because, and this is what led me really out of policing, because they're being asked to solve a problem that they are woefully incapable of solving. That is what our culture expects. Our culture expects the police to keep us safe. And this is what I was going to say in response to your previous question. The word safety itself, I think, really informs us the background of the word. It's very closely related to our word salve, like a salve, like an ointment that you would put on a sore. And safety, really, our English word safety comes from the Latin roots of the words that mean health. So when we talk about public safety, we're not talking about just not being violent. We're talking about proactively promoting health, like a state of health. That's what we really are trying to drive at. And to ask a police department of all entities, the way the industry currently is designed to work, to produce health, right? At the community, it's impossible. It is impossible. It's not gonna happen. It's just like asking a railroad company to fly planes. And it's transportation, sure, but they're not built to fly planes. They built to run trains. And to ask them to fly planes is just the wrong business. And so I think until we start imagining policing, if we want to use that word, if we want to reimagine policing doing something else, if we could take those fleet of cars and do some different things with them, if we could take all the infrastructure that our police department currently has and imagine some different functions with those, yeah, great. But to the point and to your question of, is it a good thing for, you know, police officers or the police department to try to build healthy relationships with the community? Yes, that is a positive thing. However, there are much more fundamental problems that exist that merely going in and building good relationships or trying to build relationships with the community is not going to solve.
Wow, we're really putting it down, huh?
Yeah.
And again, as a former police officer,
Ron got something to say.
As a former police officer who spent most of my time in the Napier-Suticum community, I get the job. I get the job that they are being asked to do. It's a difficult job. But again, I'm gonna put it in the metaphorical terms. You're being asked to fly planes when you're built to drive trains. And it's an impossible task. And you're gonna be bad at it. You're gonna crash planes because you're good at driving trains and not
the problem is not going away.
It's gonna get worse.
So Ron, I do need you to chime in. Would it then be better at that point for the police department for community safety program? Because I think it's a good thing they want to do community safety, to work with community partners. Would that be the better route, or what do you want to say about that part of the conversation?
Well, yes, I think we got to help. You know, I think we got to help the police department understand that working with a group or person or organization, this is messy work. And in doing messy work, that means some of the people you're going to work with may have nasty hands. That means that they have a past, you know, an ex-criminal, an ex-con. I might be someone who did my time for murder or this, that, and the other, but I still have influence. And I think a lot of times when you look at police departments that, you know, want to reimagine policing, they want to pick and choose who they work with. I don't think they shouldn't get to pick and choose who they work with, because we all have messy pasts. But if we have influence and impact, and if it's really violence that we want to try and impact, we should say, no, we're going to work with those people. For instance, if Donald Trump becomes the president, he's going to be the first president that's been convicted of a felony. Think about it. And you're talking about millions of people saying they're going to vote for him. Like, using that as an example. So therefore, I think if we're going to reimagine how that works, we got to try and get the police to understand we got to work with others. And then the other thing we got to do is we got to make sure that we get the right resources to the people. It is the people who are going to solve the problem when it comes to safety in the community, and not the police. Police is going to be the reactionary, and the people are going to be the ones that stop it before it ever happens. The people in the community.
Ron, you're not asking that we should all be convicted now, are you? That's not what you're saying, because you just made a big example. I don't know where you're going with that. But jokes aside, I do think that I do agree that people, there's a trust with people that have been in the community, grew up in the community, part of the community. There's also something that I always tell everyone, even as politicians, that, you know, not all politicians are bad, but some of us are ignorant. And it's about your lived experiences. If you've not experienced something, if you've never been through it, your answers may not be as comprehensive or as detailed. Same thing with people that are trying to help. If you've been through it, you've made the mistake, then you know how to advise people. And so I love the idea about, let's try and work with everyone, and let's try and find the best agents to help us solve this problem. So those are very good points. So I want us to start talking about specific programs that your organization does that actually tackle these issues and how you guys have been addressing it. And then when you answer, go into, it's a two-part question. So tell me about the programs that you are doing, and then tell me, look, if I have what is that called? An angel investor. If I have the right money to do this work right, is going to, I would need $10 million. I would need $2 million. I would need $5 million. It's a wish list. But then also give me the minimum, the barest minimum. For the work that we do, we use a whole lot of volunteers. At least for us to continue to do it, this is what we're going to need. And just give me your up and down, but tell me about the programs as well as since we're talking budget, we have to talk numbers. I mean, all of this is good and we should invest in all of them. So what does that look like? If you would all take a stab at that for me, I appreciate it.
May I please go first? I'll put in the chat. I need to hop off. My daughter has a performance at Belmont this afternoon that I need to hop to.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And I will be quick. We, as I mentioned earlier, we have a restorative justice diversion initiative. We have an early childhood education initiative. Our organizational budget is right at $1 million, between $1 million and $1.5 million. We would like to continue the early education work. That's probably $500,000 a year. And by the way, our work is heavy personnel. It's, I tell our team, I say, our technology is people, it's relationships. That's our technology. That's our business, right? That's our business model. So there's a lot of salaries. Our restorative justice work, we're asking right now for $600,000 $632,000 from our city to continue and to expand this work. And the reality is there's so much opportunity to do more of all of this, right? So listen, I'm gonna say, give me $100 million and we can do more. We can do more. There is no ceiling. There is no ceiling for this. And when I say $100 million, I'm not speaking unrealistically. I'm speaking very realistically. If there's, an angel investor, but that's what we're asking for currently from our city council to expand this work. That allows us to do about, $600,000 allows us to do about 25 cases a year. People may look at that and they may say, what, $600,000? You can do 25 cases. And the reality is, anybody who's telling you that I can do 100 cases, with $100,000, probably don't know what they're doing. This is deep, deep, deep work that takes a lot of focus, a lot of energy, a lot of time. But I think, as others have said, it's durable work. It's work that we get to capitalize on the upside of keeping a young person or a person who's been harmed out of the criminal legal system for the rest of their life, right? That saves us money and makes our city much more money than having them sit in a jail cell somewhere. So
before you give a success story from one of your programs, just one that comes to mind really quickly, of somebody that you helped turn around that you can share with us before you leave. And I'm going to ask the others that when they speak.
Yeah, there is a case that is highlighted in the documentary Justice USA that's streaming on Max right now. I would invite you, find a friend. If you don't have Max, Justice USA, we're in episode 6. It's a homicide case that we facilitated out of juvenile court. That would be an opportunity for folks to really get a deep dive picture into the work that we do and the outcomes that we can have. Family of a 78-year-old man who was killed in a vehicular homicide, a 13-year-old boy who was responsible for that. They eventually, after much preparation and much coaching and trauma coaching and accountability coaching, came together, had conversation around the harm, the impact of that harm, and they explored ways of repairing it. This family said, here's the one thing we want you to do. You took a good man off this planet. We want you to replace him. And so they've been working with that young man to identify what ways he can continue to grow to be a good man. And they're pouring into him and supporting him in his education, in his life at home, as well as his mother. So I will leave with this. We cannot pretend that we don't know what to do any longer. There are solutions. Every organization that's here has solutions and ideas. We can't pretend that we don't know what to do. We do need to invest in those things. And as our good friend Danielle Serrett says, from Common Justice in Bronx, New York, if incarceration made us safer, we'd be the safest nation in human history. But that's not true. So we do deserve to offer ourselves different alternatives. I appreciate having been
Well,
here with
thank you,
everyone.
and good luck to your daughter at
Thank you so
her
much.
performance. Okay, and thanks for the work that you do. We'll
Thank
be
you.
in
I appreciate
touch.
All righty.
All
Take
right,
care,
who's
Travis.
good next? Ron.
Okay. I would say for me, I run a company that I founded some years ago. I've been doing this work since 1985, but I run a company called Street Solid. And Street Solid, we are the only federal reentry program for men coming home from federal prison for our federal government, Judge Crenshaw, and the judiciary system here for adults in this area. We have a 16-week module that is centered around CBT, that's cognitive behavioral training, where each one of our providers are CBT certified by a paraprofessional out of West Virginia. He's one of the world leaders in cognitive behavioral therapy. That's just one of the things that we do. And one of the things that I can say that has been an incredible success of this program from Judge Crenshaw and them in creating the program that they have for the men that they refer to the program. And I know this is kind of braggadocious, but for the men who have completed Street Solid, we have 100% non-recidivism in the 5-year period, and that is with serving about, I want to say 70 to 80 men. So there's not a whole lot, but at the same time, those numbers are still numbers of men that are not in the repeat cycle of recidivizing. However, what we will need, what I think, will be a great budget thing for us, $1 million would take us over the top as far as an organization to be able to hire, a CEO, to be able to hire a full-time researcher to make absolutely sure that we're in a good position to continue a great grant cycle. We've never received any money from Metro at all, but we've gone out and done our own fundraising, our own different things that we've done to strive and survive. We have a full partnership with Meharry Medical College, along with my business partner there with Dr. Vincent Morelli, and also with Tay McGee. And one of the things that we try to do more than anything is to be consistent in the service that we provide to the men that we serve, and to make absolutely sure that the membership of the people that we serve is not through just the 16 weeks, it's the lifetime relationship that we build, because we know that relationships are what makes people change, not just giving them information. It's the relationship that you're able to forward and then sustain over a period of time. And then one of our main objectives from that is to tell those men and give this into them so they can be the next change agents in the areas where they have the most influences. Each one, reach one, teach one. The objective is getting them to help someone else do what they have done and show them that it can be done. That is where I think we'll see change, because none of us can be in the same place at one time. But if we got 100 people, that's like us being in those places at that one time, because we imparted that information and they're sharing it.
All right, thank you. Who wants to go next?
I'll jump in. So I really want to talk about the varsity spending plan, but the programs that built that strategy. Since 2022, we've been working with young people, mostly high school age, around 40 different high school students currently in our internship program that I mentioned earlier. But as they're getting trained in organizing and advocacy and building democracy, they use those skills to host workshops. They did a redefining public safety town hall where they talked about what keeps them safe, right? Kind of go into that conversation Mike and Travis were talking about. And what community safety really looks like, outside of the idea of policing and being connected to MNPD, right? So our youth assembly shows that young people in this city fully understand and have ideas and brilliance on what can keep them safe systemically, right? So that's that program, and it's about engaging in participatory budgeting with their families and their neighbors to develop the varsity spending plan that we've presented to City Council. And I want to name that we're not asking for City Council to give any money to the Southern Movement Committee. What we're asking is for them to make an investment in true community safety and restorative justice to make this city safer and connected to the infrastructure of the city, not to a nonprofit organization. So our youth assembly is advocating for the mayor's office and Metro Council to fund the varsity spending plan, which is a 3-tiered approach to safety. $4 million we're asking for to increase community center programming and also include a restorative justice person on staff at community centers that are directly impacted by a lot of violence, by incarceration rates, by a lot of the things that keep folks from being to their full potential in their neighborhoods and woven into the infrastructure of where they live, right? And then another $4 million to create an Office of Youth Safety, to create an office in the city that is responsible for piloting a non-police and non-courts alternatives to jails and to address gun violence, right? We know how many 14 shootings just recently. And that's not just impacting the young people that are being injured and even killed, but also the people that are getting incarcerated, that are young folks that are doing these harmful deeds, right? So there's a lot of hurt and a lot of pain and a lot of people losing people to incarceration, as well as to never being able to see their families again. So we want that Office of Youth Safety to really hold that and to really develop that as something that can stay in the structure of the city for years to come. And then also $2 million for a comprehensive restorative justice program in local high schools that includes full-time staff person solely dedicated to restorative justice. We know that the schools are, doing restorative justice to some degree, and it's largely aspirational, and folks are trying their best to do great work. However, they're stretched too thin. Your restorative justice person currently at MNPS may also be substitute math teacher, may also be helping coach basketball, may also be doing other things where they can't just focus on shifting the culture of that school to give students the tools to prevent conflict, to prevent harm from happening on the front end, and also when things happen, try to keep it from escalating to gun violence. I want to really stress that we understand, that a $10 million ask this year in the city budget is largely aspirational, but what would be really, really important to get these things going is the Office of Youth Safety, right? We want to be able to pilot a program there. Let's say at 2 million, we would at least need 2 million just to get it off the ground and get it going. But we really need that Office of Youth Safety because that's what's going to allow us to develop the things we need to develop to hold this new form of safety that is not connected to policing. So that's kind of what we're asking for this year. Again, we're not asking for that money to go into the bank account of the Southern Movement Committee, but to invest it into an office that is held by the city to put this restorative justice practices in place.
And before I go to Rashida, I wanted to ask, because some of the things that you'd highlighted, for example, working with the community centers, I know over the years we've always talked to parks, and we've always, and I know we invested some money in the past couple of years about even opening the centers late, opening them on weekends. Do you guys work with parks? Do you guys work with other departments within Metro in the work that you do? Do you have a standard partnership, or is that something that we need to foster?
So it is something we would need to foster. We've talked to parks. We've gotten good reception from different people in parks for the restorative justice programming, and a lot of support and understanding the need for that. Because there was a shooting at McFerrin. There was incidents that have a gun violence related incidents at Kirkpatrick. We know different community centers that are experiencing things that they do not have the resources or the funding and capacity to really deal with. So we're wanting to foster a relationship with parks for sure. And you know, we believe in the your veteran expertise and your ability to identify maybe potential places for that office to live. But yes, there is fostering the needs to occur with parks. Although we have community members in our organization that work for parks, young people in our organization that utilize community centers all across the city, and folks that are connected to the services and personnel that are in the Parks Department.
Thank you. Ms. Rashida. All right, Mike, do you want to go before? I know that she's
Yeah.
in the car, so.
Sorry, I was talking, but I had.
Oh,
You're good.
yeah,
But I can wait.
there you are.
You can go ahead.
No, Rashida, you go first.
Okay, Gideon's Army has several programs. Like I said, we focus comprehensively on building peace. One thing that I want to highlight is that we have a partnership with the Institute for Economics and Peace, which is generally more of an international organization. It works with like the United Nations on what it takes to build peace within communities that are experiencing war, civil war, you know. This would be a first-time pilot for them working with us within the urban community in the United States. So we're really excited about that, to see, you know, what really does strategic peace building look like for Nashville based on the 8 pillars of positive peace. And then we have our violence interruption program, hospital links, trauma and healing. We do have restorative programs, but they are street-based, community-based. We have reentry. And then something else that I'm really excited about, something else.
We can hear you.
My phone is on silent, it's still going through. Something else that I'm really excited about is our public health program. So we have a public health pre-certification that is focused specifically on training people around violence as a public health issue. It is an apprenticeship program through our GID University program, which is mostly like our outreach, where our case management lives for our young people who are mostly at high risk for participating in acts of violence or who are directly violence impacted. And we're working on building an apprenticeship, not just a pre-apprenticeship program, but an apprenticeship program, which should be launched in the fall. And then we also have our Blackout North store. It was a 3728 Market and Cafe. It's taken some time to get it open. We bought it during COVID, and funding and contractors and all of those things made it very complicated. But our youth have really taken over. They've rebranded, and we are going to. Well, I don't even want to tell y'all everything right now. I want some surprises. But our young people who graduated from our GID University pilot are now running GID University. They are the facilitators of the workshops. They're AVP certified, Alternatives to Violence program certified. They have been certified through us on workshop facilitation, all of those things. But they're the steering committee. They run everything. And so I think it's going to be really exciting for the city to see what comes from these young people and having a space that is created for them and by them. So I just want to say, like, with our hospital link program, usually like in North Nashville, we have someone who is responding at the scene of a shooting, or at the hospital, we're sitting with the families, we're doing triage, working with Metro, even on things as simple as traffic control, crowd control, making sure they got water. But we negotiate funeral expenses. when we have the funding, we pay for burials. We have a network of hotels, a network of Airbnbs where we're able to relocate families after shootings or some shootings that have been devastating to the community because of how many people were shot. We have the capacity to come in and move those families to transitional housing, like a hotel, temporary housing, like an Airbnb, and then to permanent housing. And usually when we have funding, again, we pay for these things to help the families. So we do grief care, grief therapy. We have partner therapists. We do grief groups, grief retreats. We partner with other organizations to do grief camps, which we haven't done in a while, but we do send them to the grief camps. And then within Gid University, there's again, trauma and healing, grief and group counseling, cognitive behavior therapy, dialectical behavior skill building. Like, there's just so much that the young people get. But in addition to that and leadership development workshops, they have to put everything they learn into action. Like, they have to practice it. So it's really, I was an Ingram Scholar at Vanderbilt a few years ago. And Ingram Scholars was one of the most important things to ever happen to me. And what I've tried to do is create a service leadership model for our young people that works in a lot of ways like what that program did for me. And the young people really love it. And so those are our programs. I would say if we had a wish list, 3.5 million would be absolutely wonderful, because it would also help us to be able to build out the public health training, the public health apprenticeship program. But there are formulas that evidence-based models use to determine how much money should be spent in order to have the greatest impact. And rather than take you through that, I would say that I would be so happy to sit down and show you how that works and what can be accomplished that way as you're looking at how much to earmark for violent intervention work in Nashville.
Wow. Thank you. Mike.
Yeah, what I feel like talking about after hearing about all of these extremely important and effective programs is the government seems, when doing something that it hasn't really prioritized before, to do this thing where it takes a deep breath and they go, what even is this thing? Let's do a bunch of studies to see if we how does this, okay. And the thing that I have been trying to say is that we're in a different place as a nation than we were 20 years ago with these things. There's actually been many cities that have proactively looked at how to make cities safer in ways that don't involve increasing the police force. And there's things like the Community Justice Action Fund, which has a violence prevention index, which rates cities on how much they are investing in things that make communities safer. And we scored a 31%. Which is what's less than an F, right? And but what's good about a metric like that is it tells you what we're not doing. And it's very easy to look at that. And I've provided this to a bunch of people on council in the mayor's office. There's 35 types of programs on there. And if you want to find some people that are doing programs that are on there, I just heard about a bunch of them. They fit perfectly onto there. And the Violence Prevention Index, it's not a perfect way to look at this because it doesn't actually rank how much you're investing and how big of a problem this specific thing is. But it's a starting place, and we're kind of nowhere right now. And to the point that Michael was talking about with the Youth Violence Office, that's very much a framework that if say you just wanted to get the highest points as fast as you could on the violence prevention index, the first thing you would do is start an office like that, which actually gives you 14 points on there. Whether it's youth violence or an office of violence prevention, it is something that the government is doing that is looking holistically at what it's doing through this lens, which right now there is nobody. There is no one in the office at anywhere in the city that is looking at it, because the truth is no one department is going to do it. Even if the police were the people with the right values and skill set to do it, the things that you need to make communities thrive and to build social cohesion, to reduce the things that cause violence, no one department is going to do it. So what you need is someone who has oversight into what we're doing and what we're funding, and to see that it's done with fidelity and well. And to go back to what Rashida was saying, one of the biggest hurdles is that there is a tremendous amount of institutional bias against people that look more like me and have a background more like me than the folks who are actually qualified to do that work and are going to be effective. And there's a lot of racism built in there, but there's also a lot of classism built in there. And I was talking to people who are looking at they're involved with the people's budget, and they're very focused on how can we take funding that the police aren't using from unused salaries and put them into community safety initiatives. And what I would tell them is that's a really great use of that money, in my opinion. But I'm skeptical of the city right now being able to give those to the right organizations and to have those grant contracts and to work with those people through the Byzantine complicated process that is getting a grant from the city. There's just a lot of ways to get, there's a lot of work that needs to be done at every step of that road to actually make that funding work and be effective. And it starts with putting money where our mouths are, but then doing the hard work to make sure that we're actually getting it out the door to the people and not throwing a barrier up at the last second that keeps it from being used.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you also very much. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the work that you do. Thank you because I know that it's a lot and you're all doing it, putting your body on the lines without much money to do it. And I think what I'm hearing is that we as a city needs to do better. We as a city needs to make sure that we're putting money where there's a greater outcome. And this is something that we have to do. I don't think it's a question of yes, but when it comes to safety, when it comes to decreasing youth violence, when it comes to making our community safe, especially our children, I don't think it's a yes, but I think it's a yes and. We cannot do too much. We cannot make too much effort. And I think that's what this conversation is showing me. And I've heard things today that I didn't even know about before. And I thought I knew something. And so this, hopefully with this conversation, we'll get it out as much as possible. We'll get it out to council. I will be updating my wish list with some of the conversation that we've had. It is a very tight budget here. So let's put that out there. But I do know that we do have money already that is sitting down for this program that is not allocated. That we can actually put in some of this program. People that have been promised that haven't got it for some time. So those are some of the things that we'll be looking at. But I want to thank all of you. Before I let you go, do you have any final thoughts? Are you guys working together? Are there cross work between all of you, or are you all just doing your own thing in your own way? Is there need to collaborate? I'm just putting that out there. I don't know. It's just a question, since we're all in the same, there's a lot of work to do and we need everybody to do it, but is there opportunity to work together in this space?
I can say, as for me, with everybody that's on this call here, in some frame, shape, form, or fashion, I believe that there's nothing that the people that are on this call wouldn't do for me, and vice versa. Because I love the relationship that I have with everyone. I just think that we got to figure out a way, if the city is going to do something, that they do it in a way to where it really be meaningful, without, the strings that has been attached in the past. I think it'd be great. And I think we all will be willing to work together, because the work is bigger than all of us. And that's what's more important than anything.
Well, thank you. Any last word? And you all got a lot of comments on Facebook. I think because you're the expert, the subject matter expert, and you covered it so very well and in detail, there were no questions. What you were getting was just applause and comments, and very amazing, and thank you. And so people are listening, people are appreciating. And my good friend Tamika here just said they always want to do a study. So there's no need for a study. There's already a lot of study that is already done. I think we're at the point where we have to get into action. We have to do it now. So, any last word? I'm gonna start with Jamel.
Yeah, so real fast, first I want to thank you for allowing the Southern Movement Committee for us to join you on this call and have this conversation, especially about something as special to us as the varsity spending plan. So this is a great signal to send to our young people who may not feel comfortable. You know what I'm saying? It just as a young people, you've had the youth down the hill, and one of the first thing they talked about was gun violence, and they sounded exactly like our young people. So we're really excited about the varsity spending plan and about the potential of setting up something as innovative that doesn't exist across this country, as the Office of Youth Safety inside of the mayor's office, inside of Metro government, as a way to start proactively solving gun violence. And with that said, this is a new council, this is a new mayor's office, which really for me, really houses a potential to really set the temperature for the next 3 years. Now, we know it's a tight budget, but with it being a new city council, I think you all have a tremendous ability to really direct what it looks like to invest in everyday folks moving forward for the next 3 years. So we're really excited to be able to not only potentially get the Office of Youth Safety, but to work alongside city council members and the mayor's office to make sure the Office of Youth Safety gets off to the best possible start, so it can be something that outlives all of us on this call. So thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you. Michael. The
Uh,
SMC, Michael.
Oh yeah, Michael threw me off. But yeah, the varsity spending plan was great to talk about. I echo all of Jamel's sentiments. I just appreciate being here, and folks care for our people. That's what it comes down to. Like we said earlier, you can't really put a line item on the lives of people and on folks' families and their ability to thrive. So I think I really look forward to the potential we have to do some really great work in the future. And yeah, thanks so much for the time.
Thank you. Mike Lacey.
I would just say that, I hope we look to the cities that are already doing this. If I'm sure when we decided as a city that we wanted an NFL team, we made some calls and figured out how you do it and set up a commission for sports that was able and equipped for it. There's no huge mystery about what to do here. So it makes you ask, what systemically is at play that's making us not commit to it and take it seriously? And those might be really dark answers about our biases and prejudices. Okay, well, let's take whatever system we designed from that place and redesign it, let's just take the steps necessary to create a different system than what we have right now. It's not rocket science. We can do it.
Ron, and then I'll let Rashida close it out.
I just would like to say thank you for putting this together. I would have to say a year or 2 years ago, I did this with you, and when we talked about, at that time, we were being cut $1 million from the little budget that we did have. which was shocking and surprising. And I just hope and pray that, this be the start of something new, like Brother Gooch said, nephew, and the rest of the team here. We have a new council. We have an opportunity to do something different than what we've always done. And I think if we do that, even if it's small, it'll be a good start, because we know the results of doing the same old thing over. We all know that. And so therefore, hopefully this is the beginning of doing something different going forward and making a difference by doing something different.
Thank you. Ms. Rashida.
You're on mute. You're on mute, Rashida.
I just said I'm sick of myself. What I just said was brilliant. I don't know if I can say it again. Just trust me.
It was brilliant. We'll take it.
Yeah, it was. Listen, I'm fired up and I'm ready to go.
Yeah,
One thing that is in our mission is that we will not quit. We will not stop until this pipeline is dismantled. We will not quit on our children. I feel like, speaking specifically about Gideon's Army, that we have shown that we are here regardless. We are here regardless of what's going on politically, what's going on in the communities. We are here to stay. We are committed to our children. Like I always tell people, I started out as a Metro Nashville public school teacher, and my kids were being killed. And so, these aren't just numbers to me. And I'm not saying that it is to anybody who's watching or anybody who's even on this call, but it's really time to go big or go home. Go big or go home. And I feel like, and not to too loud, but the city really has a blessing right here in me in Nashville, because to be nationally certified by the University of Chicago, to be in partnership with the people who are leading this work all across the country, to be directly connected with the White House, and all of these things is so much and that can be brought into this work that Nashville has just never opened itself up to. And I'm ready. I'm ready to do whatever it takes, because the grief is just so much. It's just so much. Like, for me to keep having to say goodbye and to never know, like, every single time I talk to one of my kids, I never know if it will be the last time, and that's not okay. I want to say to the people who are watching this, I need you to be fired up. I need you to be ready to go. I need you to take action, because we've all done a lot with a little. And again, speaking for Gideon's Army, we have done a lot with a little, and people power goes a long way.
I love it.
If you are
Love it.
in participating in anything, please reach to our website. I check it now. I haven't always been great at that. Growth. Gideon's Army TN.org. Gideon's Army TN.org. I'm telling you, 2024 is about to be a really great year for Nashville's youth with what we have planned. But I'm looking forward to what the city does and what we can do together. Again, when we started violence interruption in Nashville, everybody was at the table. The youth were leading it. Metro Police, I think Metro Arts, Metro Human Relations Commission, Metro Schools, the courts, everybody was at the table. But things change. We've been here pushing, but we've had different mayors, different superintendents, different council members. Gideon's Army has been a constant, but they're in a system that is constantly evolving. So I'm hoping that we can finally get something anchored where the work that we do, all of us, can be truly sustainable. But I'm fired up. I'm ready to go. Let's go.
Miss Latarian Channel says on Facebook that, she liked the recommendation about the Office of Youth Safety, But she says that when we do put this together, let's make sure we do it in a way that is sustainable beyond administrations. I'm interested in this as well. I'm going to start my conversation. I'm going to get my intern and my team talking to Southern Movement Committee, talking to all of you. Mike sent all the data about what the other cities are doing, and let's see what we have, and let's see what we already have too, because I think maybe there are things that we're doing in silos that are not talking to each other. Maybe there's already something in place, maybe without an official name, but doing the same thing that we need to amplify or formalize. Like I said, this is beyond talk. We need to do something. What I use my budget conversation for is to educate the community about the budget, but also to educate myself and to educate my colleagues on what's happening. And it's also been the source of my wish list over the year. When Ron was talking the last time we did this, following our conversation, I went in and I put $1 million in the wish list for his office. And things happen. So and then things happen. So I'm going to update my wish list with this conversation. There's not $1 million everywhere. There isn't. This year is not going to be the year that we'll get all of this done, but it's the year that we get the conversation started. It's the year that we amplify it. It's the year that we take the first step with maybe a little and then open to build on it. That's why I wanted you guys to be here to talk to the citizens, people that you've never talked to before, people that you've never been in front of, who'll be reading the newsletter and they'll be learning about this and realize that this is something that is going to take all of us. Rashida said it best. Losing a child is the worst thing that can happen to any parents, and you don't want that, especially in a way that is senseless, that is also preventable. So I thank all of you for the work that you do. I thank all of you for your commitment to our children, for working to keep our city safe. All of you are great assets to the city. All of you bring so much to the table. I know each and every one of you and the work that you do. And I'm very, very proud of each of you, and I thank you. And so I want to be a source to amplify what you do, and to make sure that the little power that I have, I may not have a lot. It's a 40-member body, right? But it won't be for lack of trying. It won't be for lack of talking about it. It won't be for lack of saying something on record. So that much, And so thank you again for, we spent 1.5 hours, and that's okay, because we're talking about something important. We cannot just, we don't want to cut corners anymore. We want to make sure we do this and we do it right. And so thank you for being partners in this. I look forward to continue to work with you. I look forward to continue to partner with you as we continue to look together to a very sustainable and long-term solution that will get us to where we need to be. So again, enjoy the rest of your Saturday, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Peace out.
Thank
Peace.
you.
Wakanda forever.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Y'all have a good one.
Thank you too.
Take care now, sis.
Thank you, sir.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.